I'd like to share some of what we learned about home visits. So long before our intensive program of growth, I took Ruhi Book 2, A Rising to Serve, and as Mrs. Lincoln mentioned, each book is associated with an act of service that, if you really put it into practice, is important in building community, and by extension, building that world civilization that Baha'u'llah has envisioned. Now, the act of service in Book 2, as was mentioned, is to visit some Baha'is and share some themes from the writings in order to deepen our understanding of them. So our tutor asked us to set up these visits, but there weren't any new Baha'is to visit, and the whole thing felt a little bit awkward, so I never did them. Looking back, I think that my attitude was based a lot on feeling shy and fearful, but a lot of it had to do with the lack of understanding. Now, I had misunderstood at least one thing. I had misunderstood the true nature of the visit. I understand better now that a visit is not so much about going to carry out a task. A visit is about carrying forward a relationship. And I don't think that we can build a new world order without relationships. The power and the beauty of these visits became a lot more apparent to me this summer. Our cluster was asked to host a youth teaching project during the intensive part of our 3-month cycle. And it had been decided not to have a large-scale door-to-door teaching project like the previous 2 cycles, but rather to reach out to the people that we knew. So now we have this group of radiant youth, eager to teach and serve, who would be visiting our cluster for a week or 2, and we didn't have a project to plug them into. So what do you do? Well, I hope that we're learning to apply our learning. And one of the things that we've learned is that if you're not sure what step to take in your teaching, then go visit someone. If you do it prayerfully, relying on Baha'u'llah, you'll receive assistance. So, a major component of our summer youth teaching project was to go out visiting. Our area teaching committee made a list of both seekers and Baha'is to visit. Sometimes the purpose of the visit was well-defined. So we might study a deepening theme, such as love and unity in the community with a new believer. But other times it wasn't so clear that wasn't a problem. Because of the institute training that the youth had undergone, they could always come up with something that addressed the spiritual need of the person they were visiting. So, with guitars and a ukulele in hand, we went off and visited. And the youth, they sang, and they prayed, and they talked, and studied, and they told stories, and they sang some more, and sang, and sang. And we had just absolutely joyful visits. Everyone we visited was so appreciative and moved. So I want to share one story in particular. They went to the home of a fairly new Baha'i, Jennifer. She was already taking Book 2, so they weren't really sure what they were going to share. And when they arrived, the new Baha'i, Jennifer, and her husband had prepared a meal for them and told them that they were the first visitors in their new home, and they really cherished this opportunity to offer this hospitality. So after they chatted for a bit and got to know each other better and sang some songs, they asked her what she'd like to do. How could they serve her needs? To their surprise, she had a very specific request. Because of her work conditions, she has to say her short obligatory prayer whenever she can, and she can't carry her prayer book with her. And like many of us, she was really struggling to memorize. And she'd been unable to learn the prayer by heart. So she asked, could they help her do it? And so that's what they did. Together in the space of the visit, they memorized the short obligatory prayer. And I saw her a few weeks ago, and she told me that she still had it memorized, and now she could say her prayer every day. During this time, it was really astonishing to witness how these visits really bind people together, how each book of the Ruhi sequence helps us to carry out visits that are really spiritually meaningful and uplifting. Think about it, each book. So here are some of the kinds of visits that are happening in our cluster that not only integrate the core activities, but reinforce them. People visit to pray and then reflect on their meaning. And I want to share just a short story. There's a woman in our cluster who is in healthcare, and one of her patients was at home dying of cancer under hospice care. And this believer decided that she wanted to go visit this woman. They had had a good relationship. She knew this patient was very spiritually grounded. She wanted to go visit her and pray with her. So she went, and here was the woman, really on her deathbed. And it was a short visit, but during the course of the visit, the believer sung, "Blessed is the spot." And the woman's face lit up. She said, "Oh, that was so beautiful. Can you send me that prayer? I want that prayer to be read at my memorial service." Other visits that take place, we can talk about children as noble beings whose spiritual education must be attended to. We can tell stories from the history of the faith, visit the junior youth and his parents, and really clearly describe the special needs of junior youth, or directly share Baha'u'llah's message with a receptive soul and invite that person to join us as we build this new civilization, one neighborhood at a time. In this part of the world, visiting and also hospitality are kind of underdeveloped. But what I'm seeing in our Baha'i communities as we make visiting a habit, that we're really changing that. So please go visit someone. If you're not sure how to do it or you're a little afraid, invite some youth to go with you because they know how to do it. They can bring a guitar. They can even bring a ukulele if you have one. Sing a song together. Don't wait for them to come to you. Go to them. Go visit them. Thanks.